Thank you, Mayor. It's been several weeks, and I assume that everyone on the council has had opportunity to read the 168 as amended. If you have any discussion that you'd like to talk about it at this point, we can do that. If not, we need to make a decision whether we're going to put it on the agenda for next week or next meeting for approval and for first reading. Any comments regarding?
Yeah, unfortunately, I forgot to bring my red line copy, so I'm going to try to go from memory here. I did notice, I think at one point we had talked about making the threshold of approval $5,000 to match this the policy for spending. I would like to see that stay. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. That was the one of the things that jumped out the most.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would like to point out is that you mentioned you did have your red line. There was no red line.
Well, I redlined it.
Okay. Yeah, that has come up on several occasions. And as a matter of fact, in one of our discussions, you know, to date, I think we have 11 different times that we've looked at this and made changes and stuff. It actually went to $1,000, and it was redlined at $1,000. And then when between a 2-week period of time, said when it came back to the council, it was changed to $5,000. And apparently no one really knows how that happened, but it did go to 1,000. I'm comfortable with the recommendation to relook at it, because whatever the dollar amount is, regardless of the dollar amount, everything has to come back to the council to approve.
And then I have a hard time with that, because we saw the list from Katie either last week or the week before, and for everything to come to the council for approval before it happens, it's just not gonna work. I mean, we got donuts, we got coffee, we've got little things here and there that people drop off.
Apparently,
How does
you
that
haven't
work?
read really closely to it because the amended version addresses just exactly that up to the value of $300. So anything more that you get donuts for valued at more than $300, I think we want to know about it.
Yeah, the recommendation which was put forward on reading it was anything $500 and below is decided by the individuals. And I want to point out that in our last meeting, Katie gave us an update of things that have been donated to the city at cost. And that covers the date from May 23rd to August 30th. So really it's 90 days. During that period of time, there was 39 donations. Of that, there was 5 that was over $500. So really in a 3-month period of time, the idea that the dollar amount is such a critical thing, by their own record, shows not a problem. Because out of close to 40 times, there's only 5 times that everyone would have come to the council. And really it comes to the council and said, hey, this is what's happening, and it's going to get approved and move forward. The benefit of the $500 I saw is that we correct that. I know the 1,000 and the 5,000 kept raising its head because of, well, they don't want to, because I keep hearing about donuts and brooms, things of the sort here. Using the documentation which is supplied to us, it's not an issue. It's not an issue. So I would recommend the way it was written as a good way to move forward.
Chris, if I could just get a clarification. When you say that 5,000 limit, we're referring to anything less than 5,000 doesn't need to be presented to this group for consideration, right?
For approval. It doesn't say we can't know about it, but for
Agreed.
approval.
Agreed. I actually am agreeing in this gesture. I reflect that I don't think that this council must necessarily recognize or try and approve or reject it below 5,000 as a spending level. So I share your perspective on that.
The only thing I want to say in regards to this whole thing about what level, okay, and it's up to y'all. You know, I'm not personally invested in numbers on this, okay, so whatever the body decides to do, they decide to do. But let me just say this. You kick around this number of 5,000 or 1,000 like it really means something, okay? And for the sake of me, I can't reach out and touch why it's such a valuable figure. Because it still comes before the board, how? In the register. you still have to approve the register. So you're approving it anyway,
Oh,
okay? They can spend $1,000. We don't know about that? Of course we know about it. It comes across on the register, doesn't it? Okay? You sit there and you're going like this.
Well,
We
well,
don't
because I
get the
don't,
register?
no, because I'm trying to follow you, don't,
Okay.
I
we get the
appreciate you don't talk
register.
to me that way, because we don't,
We get the register.
but that's expenses.
Well,
I'm
that's
talking-
what you're talking about.
No,
is
But the
payments.
Parks and Arts Commission doesn't write checks for donations. We're talking about donations. And for me, $5,000 is a policy, and for consistency's sake in our financial policies, that's why
Well,
I'm
there's-
talking about the $5,000.
I concur with you, you know, whatever you think is just fine.
I'd like to point out is regardless of what the dollar amount is, that C is in every one of these says the city council should be notified of all donations in a timely manner. And that's been a discussion, is that what is a timely manner on it? This is not a timely manner if it comes out once a month or something like that. The idea is that the council has control of that and needs to maintain control of that for continuity. So regardless of the dollar amount I always find interesting, because the 5,000 is thrown out, then it was agreed to as 1,000. But if you look at the documentation, it shows that in a 2-week period of time, somehow or another came to the council with a 5,000, the 1,000 was changed to 5,000. And no one brought it up, no one caught it. Just like I think now some of the things that are being brought up are not being caught of what I think the simplicity of it. Because if the council has final authority on it, it has to be brought to the council at some point. The confusion gets into if something comes in under whatever the dollar amount is, it comes to us and it's already accepted. Do you realize how anti-productive that is? To say the council has final say-so, and it comes to us when somebody, the majority of the council looks at this and says, well, I don't think this fell into that category. Now we've already put this in motion to accept that. It just doesn't flow. And I'm amazed about that. It refers, if you read it, on A, the mayor or city administrator will review and acceptability of all donations and determine the benefit of the city of Liberty Lake are appropriate and acceptable under the city rules and regulations, and applicable federal and state laws. And it hangs there. Once they do that, it needs to have a second step. And what is that? The recommendation has to come to the council on if it's going to be accepted or not. It's just most interesting. I just find it most interesting. How this whole thing started, I just want to reiterate, and if anybody wants to get into all the documentation, I've got it. This whole thing started to get the council out of being able to have the power to make a decision. That's how this came from. And there's not a single council member here that initiated that. There's no council member who would have initiated to get rid of C, which takes the decision-making out of the council. That just materialized somewhere. And here we are now, 8-9 months later, and we're still kicking this thing around. To me, it's not so much the dollar amount as it is the process. I've never been hung up so much on the 10, 5, 1,000, 500. It's the process. And the process says the council has final say-so. On all donations, has final say-so. How do we determine that? We don't determine it, in my opinion, after the fact.
It makes no difference to me what the value is, okay? Again, it's bringing it back before the council for approval simply because we're mandated by law to have the approval. Pretty simple, okay? If somebody comes back and say, oh, we already accepted it and it's valued at X, we'd have to have a really good reason to say, no, we don't want it, okay? So, you know, if you're happy with 5,000, that's great, okay? It doesn't make a difference, all right? We've been quibbling over that number
Correct.
for months, and I don't understand the need. We haven't dug any deeper than $5,000. That's what hit everybody in the broad side of the forehead, and that's where we're stuck. We haven't even discussed the merits, okay? But we're stuck at $5,000. So if it takes $5,000 to get over the hump, okay, that's great. Happy with it.
Well, I would personally like to see what we think the final draft is going to be and get it on the agenda for a vote.
The final draft was put out, with a change to the $5,000.
Well,
Okay, do we
the
need to
final
look at it
draft
some
came to
more?
us on our desks. I would like to see it as part of put it on the agenda with the proposed final draft for us to look at a council meeting and vote on. And the frustrating things with this process, and even just standing out at the maintenance yard field earlier, we have two different documents that say two different things that have the same date on it and no revision control. And that has made this process, with this ordinance in particular, really difficult to follow.
Agreed. Agreed.
I would like to point out also is that we've got documentation here back to May or April. And along that period of time, there's been all these revisions, 5,000, 1,000, 500, 10,000, all of that's come about. In all this documentation that we've been given, there is only one that appeared redlined. And in that one, it was specified, all cash donations more than $1,000 shall be reviewed and accepted by the council. Now that was on July 12th. The very next meeting, which was July 16th, when it was given to us, it was $75,000. Now somewhere between, here's documentation, somewhere between July 12th, when we agreed on this, that it was $1,000, and when it came back to us 2 weeks later at our meeting, it had been changed to $5,000. And that, because of that, put in another delay. The question was, well, where did that happen? How did it happen? And it was, well, let's go back and redo this. So it was given back to whoever was redoing it. And then when it did come out the next time, was on 2 weeks later, I mentioned. That document that came out was not redlined, didn't say draft on each page. So once again, we keep getting back in this dilemma of, so well pointed out tonight, we look at a documentation and one thing says 6 feet, another says 8 feet. And from my standpoint, I get a little frustrated when I see Parks and Arts, or I see Lisa bringing stuff forward, and we have draft on each page, the page is numbered, and we know what the changes are. And here on 168, 8 months later, we're still dealing with this, and we still can't get that done except one time in that period of time. And I think what that shows is Parks and Arts can get frustrated to the point where they were advised, put everything on hold, don't do anything on any donations until the council decides what they want to do. In reality, if the council is looking at making changes, that doesn't take our ordinance 168 and stop it.
Right.
Okay? We always had an ordinance, but yet they were led to believe, hold up on everything. And what that led to was us losing a $50,000 donation from a citizen of Liberty Lake. So you know what? Shame on us.
So the question for me, and I know Sean's not here because he's the one that made all the red lines or changes or whatever. We've had a lot of discussion in regards to, the words and so forth, and then now this, the amount, I guess. So are the words okay, other than the amount? That's my one question, and the second question is if the words are okay and you have a 1,000 or 5,000 or whatever, I mean, from our perspective, my perspective, it doesn't make any difference. I don't have a dog in a fight. It doesn't make any difference what number you pick. You know, I mean, we're getting a donation, however you wanna run it through the council, doesn't bother me a bit. You know, so if you want $1,000, but we're all gonna sit here tonight and say it's $1,000. And at least we get that piece covered so we can bring it back. We're gonna say it's 5,000, we're gonna say it's 500. Or it's a box of donuts, it doesn't make any difference. You know, that's kind of where we're at right now. I know this has come back, it's been kind of held out there in the wind a little bit for quite some time, but now it's time to, are the words okay, and what is the amount that you want to have?
Allow me to throw out again, is that was resolved, Mr. Mayor. That was resolved when, on July 12th, that Sean did all this work, showed the redlining, and it was $1,000.
Okay,
But when it came back, it was changed to 5,000. And we keep getting into that number, whereas I've said, or the council members have said, allow me to finish, please, that the dollar amount is not so much a hang-up. I don't care what the number's going to be. I really don't. But we have to be consistent when it keeps coming back to us. The consistently has to be with me, is that when does the council make the decision on the acceptance of the donations? And it cannot be, the city council shall be notified of all donations on a timely manner. Who determines timely manner?
We need to define that.
Okay, so the dollar amount has obviously tripped up some individuals, and that should not be the issue. The issue should be the verbiage, that is. I don't care what the dollar amount is. Leave it at the grand,
well, again,
where we had decided, and whoever managed to change it when it came back to us 2 weeks later, let's go back to that, leave it at that, and let's work on the verbiage so we can move forward.
again, Mr. Kennedy, that you want a timely manner, what should that timely manner be? You define it. Again, it doesn't really make, you know, if you want it in real time, it probably won't happen. But if you want it on a 2-week basis or whatever that is, it probably could happen. I'm not sure. The council meets the first and third Tuesdays. So how do you set that in motion, that in a timely manner? So I bring in my box of donuts, or $301 worth of donuts, whatever that number is. What is that? Where does that fall in a timely manner? I mean, or how do you want
I believe that the ordinance explains,
to communicate?
it's already stated in that. You know, one of the problems that we have, go ahead, you wanted to say something?
No, I just wanted to point out, you know, we need to understand there's a difference between council being notified, like we got the list last meeting, versus when they need to come to us for approval. Those are two different things. So, you know, I don't mind if we get, notified, if we get, a summary every month or 2 months, whatever it is. But if there is something that needs to come to us for approval, obviously it needs to happen forthwith.
One of the things that I did want to say after listening to Mike talk a little bit was that one of the challenges that we have as a group is that when we get involved individually, as I did on this, to reconstruct an ordinance, okay? To frame it in a certain way that I think all of us could get on board with. None of us sitting here are professional secretaries, okay? So if I'm sitting at my house banging out verbiage, okay? Now it has to go someplace to be redlined. Well, where is that? Because it's not happening on my street, okay? Because I don't have the previous copy, okay? I may have it physically, or I may bring it up electronically, but I'm just not that good to be able to continue redlining something while I'm trying to think about it as well. So we need to figure out a method of getting our ideas from here to the staff and back in a coherent fashion, okay? Not to mention timely. So I see it as something we all gotta work on, okay? I can't do it, you can't read my mind, so you can't just sit there and create what we throw. He throws an idea out, she throws an idea, the mayor has an idea, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to come up with a magical form. That's not gonna work either, So we have to really think about this and ask for input and figure out a method of getting the ideas across, formalized, and brought back with a person or a staff member or whoever, several, that can move it forward in the same fashion each time, okay? And that's a weakness that we have. So that needs to be done too, at some point.
I agree that we need to get a better system in relation to the redlining that occurs on these different documents. For the purpose of this specific one, I'm not worried about the $5,000. It shows consistency with the finances that we have in place. As far as the timely manner, I think we've got it pretty well directed on this. There's no reason that we couldn't have it come out even at the same time that we get the vouchers. I mean, we approve the vouchers every 2 weeks, roughly, usually, and we can get that information at the same time. It's a timely manner. We do it with our financial stuff. It's handled.
Bob?
Yeah, I'd just like to comment. I think we've spent an inordinate amount of time on this ordinance to start with. This all came about because of a policy established by the Parks and Arts Commission. And some of us didn't like the way that was written. And they didn't like the fact that the Parks and Arts Commission were going to make decisions that some council members felt that they should be making. And it's all kind of academic to me, as Councilman Kennedy mentioned. The ordinance is still in effect. The original ordinance is still in effect today, as it was on January 1st, when the Parks and Arts Commission was working on it. As a process, it seems to me that if we want to amend an ordinance, we have a city attorney who can draft the ordinance, and we can tell him what we want, what changes we want in the ordinance. Let him draft it, bring it back to council. If you don't like that, tell him what changes you want on it, what amendments you want, and then let's approve the thing. We spent, since January, working on this thing. If we did this on every matter that came before council, you know, we'd be here for 6 months at a time, working on them. So I think it's kind of ridiculous. And as far as the council, you know, authority, we talked at our last meeting about quasi-judicial matters and the fact that city council has no say-so on any quasi-judicial matters on appeals, on zoning matters. But yet we're so worried about whether it's going to be $5,000 or $1,000. It's all academic to me. I'd just like to get it on the agenda for the next meeting and let's vote on it. Thank you.
I'd like to make a recommendation so we can move forward and put this thing to bed. So looking back on July 8th, what was given to the council to look at, it had blanks on what the dollar amount should be. And one of these did actually have a draft on it. On that from July 8th, that's where this body said $1,000 was the dollar amount. And what was put on there was the city council shall maintain the final authority to accept or deny any gift or donation. Now, on July 8th, this was at the workshop, and on July 12th, our attorney documented with date stamps, took that information and transferred it and said the city council shall maintain final authority to accept or deny any gift or donation. That's what we decided, this council decided. What was also decided, all cash donations more than $1,000 were reviewed and accepted by city council. That's what the attorney put together. Well, what materialized in the very next meeting, which was 2 weeks later, it had suddenly changed to, on the 16th of July, it suddenly changed back to $5,000. And also on C, which we had had 2 workshops had said, C, the city council shall maintain the final authority to accept or deny any gift or donation. Guess what happened 2 weeks later? Not only did the 1,000 get changed to 5,000, which didn't come to this body, but also C suddenly says the city council should be notified of all donations in a timely manner, which this council did not agree to that. This council, just on those 2 points alone, there's other points, but those two are very critical to me. Because the council put the time and effort in to say, we agree to $1,000. We also agree that C says that we have final say-so. But within 2 weeks, when it came back to us, someone, some persons, whoever, was not these 7 individuals here, or 8, suddenly changed those 2 items. I recommend we go back to this documentation on July 16th and work forward from there, so we can get this thing resolved.
So I'm trying to follow the timing and everything. It's a little bit difficult, and I know there's a lot of confusion, but going forward, rather than looking back, where are we today, where do we want to go? So I see 2 potential options that I'd like feedback on. One is using the July 12th, is that the right date, draft?
It looks like July 12th, yes.
July 12th markup, or the one that Councilmember Langford handed out. Let's see, Ann, do you have that one? I think I just gave it back to you. This is the one that you handed out 2 weeks ago. Either one of these, it doesn't matter to me, whichever one you want. We should bring it back and have one copy, and Ann can control edits. So we'll put it into our packet, everyone will be looking at the same one document, and then we can get comments and edits from there. So my question to you is, do you want to use the one that was distributed last meeting, which is, I have it right here, I only have a hard copy, I don't have it electronically, or the one that Councilmember Kennedy has? Which one do you want to use as the base document for us to go forward?
Obviously, because I worked on it.
Try to motion. So Councilor Langford wants to use this one. So do you have this electronically? Okay.
I got it on the computer.
Ann and I will work together to put this together electronically, and we will have one document, and Ann will control all the edits. And we'll go forward, and what we're looking for is recommendations of dollar amounts and timeframes and all of those things. And then there's probably some language in there that you might want to insert into here, and that you can give me those edits.
I would strongly recommend is that this be given to all the council members, so we can use this as a reference from the past, and we don't have to delve into the other 9 changes that kept coming forward.
But
To utilize this to that, so we can decide how we can put this thing to bed, and we can move on.
And could you make a copy of that and a copy of Mr. Kennedy's?
so if you like things that were in that document, then you need to give those to us so we can put them in this document.
Everybody will get a copy of that.
The only reason I bring this up, Mr. Mayor, is because this was actually a document that we had all agreed to and went forward.
It's a good idea, just, again, the best way to do an ordinance is to sit at this table, print it out, you go line by line.
Right.
And we've done that.
And we all sit there and we just check it off, and are we all okay with that sentence? We all okay with those numbers? That's the only way to do an ordinance. I like that.
I could not be more in agreement, because if it happens on everything else that comes to this council, why can't it happen on this?
Well,
Okay?
perfect. So just put the 2 together, pass them out, and the next time we come back, we'll have a draft, I guess, right? Both in copy, and then we just go through line by line. Okay?
So just to clarify though, we want your comments on the document that Odin distributed last council meeting. Okay, that will be the base document.
And then we'll each
And you
have a
can
copy.
use that as a reference.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
And it'll be October 15th.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're moving on. So public safety. Now, you guys flip a coin, or we just defer to the chief? or-
Flipped as far as I'm concerned, it works well.
Okay, well, I'll take you in the middle there.
All right, I'll
There you
take
go.
it, sounds like a deal. I'm not gonna waste a whole bunch of time, we've got the documents in front of you as far as what we've had for total incidents generated by officers throughout the month. Traffic collisions about 4, citations you can read through there. A couple things we just wanted to highlight as far as some of the things that have been happening throughout the community. When we had an attempted suicide on September 16th, where officers received a report of subject had lit themselves on fire. Responded to it. He had put himself out since he decided that wasn't a good idea and was transported for mental things at that point. Malicious mischief, I bring this up because we had one that was about $1,000 worth of damage done to his vehicle. I only bring that up because everybody's probably aware of the city vehicles that were damaged as well. And Katie is going to be talking about that a little bit later on in her report. We had a fraud or theft situation where officers received a report of a theft in the area of business where they had a dine and dash. And as a result of that dine and dash, they discovered a stolen vehicle also in the Safeway parking lot. And when we got the guy that didn't want to give up any information originally down to the jail, it turned out that he was a notorious thief for vehicle theft, and he had about, maybe 100 or so vehicle thefts within the community area. And they did another operation on him that next morning. They caught him doing the vehicle theft and arrested him for that as well. So, all generated from our guys doing that stuff. So, another thing I just wanted to point out that's not on your report, the emergency management mitigation plan, or hazard mitigation plan for the Spokane County is now going through its revision, our 5-year revision. We're working on that. I just had a meeting today, and you can look at all the updates and everything as we have throughout the county, on the county website if you'd like to look at those. With that, I'm trying to keep it brief, so I'll pass it on.
Can I ask just a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
I know we haven't had our light at Signal for very long. I think I heard on the radio while I was just about passing there that there was an accident at Signal in Appaway yesterday.
We did.
How's it been going? I'm curious now that the light's there, what the cause of the couple accidents that there have been.
Basically, the cause of most of those accidents have all been inattention. People have just been either looking at cell phones or looking down at the radios or something along those lines, and then end up deep trunking the car in front of them. That's usually what causes those accidents. And the last 2 that I've been to, that's been the cause of those.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Inattentive driving, is this?
That would be it, yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Chief?
Library or?
How about you?
Okay,
It's all safety.
save the best for last.
There you go, I like it.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Good to see you. On your desk up there in front of you, you have both the map of calls for the period July 15th through August 15th, and then a written report with a few highlights. About 100 calls, just short of 197 calls in the Liberty Lake proper area during that time frame. And pretty routine looking at it, which is a good thing in our business. Routine means nothing out of the ordinary that caught us by surprise. Big thing on first item there on burn restrictions, so everybody knows burn restrictions were lifted in Spokane County metro area on September 20th. So they were in on July 24th, so just short of 60 days this year for the burn restrictions on recreational fires, outdoor fires. Still, as you can see later in the report, respond to illegal burns and some other things. In this case, September 24th, illegal burn turned out to be, a neighbor thought that the neighbor was burning trash, but it appeared to be yard waste. So the crews educated the homeowner after they kind of put the fire out regarding outside fires. Couple of accidents. They had a motorcycle accident where had serious injuries to the driver. The passenger seemed to not suffer such serious consequences, but they both had helmets, so that was good here in Liberty Lake. Also had a reported structure fire that came in 8:30 p.m. on the 7th that actually ended up being, the lady thought, or a reporter, smoke was pouring out of her house, but the crews actually found a mattress leaned up against a hot lighting source on the wall, which was burning the mattress cover and the contents of the mattress. So that's causing that kind of nasty smoke she was seeing in her house. Removed the mattress and kind of educated her a little bit about how to do that maybe in the future and avoid that. Then just a few things going on in the department real quick. We have National Fire Prevention Week, October 6th through 12th. Our crews will be in the schools working with the kids, so that's always a fun time. And then we had our open house this past weekend during the snowstorm on Saturday. We couldn't have predicted that. We moved it earlier this year than past years. Despite the bad weather, it still had well over 600. We know we had more than 600 people show up because we served 600 lunches. So there's probably a few more beyond that. We've been busy with our budget process, just so anybody knows that's interested in budgeting and what we do with our budget. Our board will be viewing and holding the first public hearing on our budget October 14th, and then the second hearing on October 28th coming up. Then I've been busy working on securing a property for Station 11. That's a facility, fire station facility, a fleet maintenance facility, and an annex building that we're going to be building in approximately the 2022-23 year cycle. So I've been working with Centennial Properties on an 8-acre parcel off of Barker and Garland, which is kind of that road that leads into Cantera, off of Barker out past the Euclid. So that's what's going on in the department. Be happy to answer any questions. Mike?
None.
No?
Thanks, Chief. Jocelyn?
Can I have the clicker?
You want the clicker?
Yes.
There's a clicker for you.
She's always got the cool stuff.
It's very basic this time. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a few library statistics for you. We are back down to post-summer numbers at the library, so almost 4,600 people visited the library last month and about 7,500 things checked out. Our digital downloads are still going strong at about 1,600. We added 94 new patrons last month, and we have a total of about 7,300 patrons. Go. All right. As you all know, the needs assessment project is ongoing. Thank you all for giving some of your time last week. We talked to, in mid-70s, about 75 people last week, which was pretty good for this sort of community engagement that we were trying to do. Our survey is still live until October 14th, and we are trying to get 350 survey responses. That will be statistically significant for us. We are just over 100, so please share with everyone. The next thing coming up, the big part of this, is the strategic retreat, which will be on October 29th from 9 to 4. And Councilmember Kennedy has asked to attend that. If there are up to 2 more council members who would like to be part of that, please just let me know. If the full day commitment is a problem, you can also come between 10:30 and 2:30, as that's the part where we need to have more people involved, doing more of the exercises. And the consultants will be back in town. They'll be they'll be bringing back all the data from the surveys, the focus groups, the background data that they've been gathering about the community, about library trends, and then helping to guide us into the sections we need for creating our strategic plan and space needs assessment. Wanted to give you an overview of summer reading. So I've got some 2018 numbers up there showing that total we had about 625 kids with a 39% completion rate. And this year we had 967 kids with a 44% completion rate. So higher numbers all around, which is really nice. So we'll be evaluating what we did differently this year compared to the prior year, and hope to take those lessons on into the next year, because we are already starting to plan what that is going to look like. And then adult summer reading, we didn't have a program last year. And so this year we did. We had a lot of people register, not quite as many finish, but we figured that's because we asked too much. 15 books might be a lot over the summer for adults. So we're going to shorten that for next year. And then just a few things coming up at the library. Of course, we've got story times. We have the Hoot Bird Show coming. So if you'd like to see owls, things like that, I think it's going to be pretty cool. Teen Paint and Snack. Drop-in chess. We're going to do Build It, Craft It, the Pool Noodle edition. This is when you go through your storeroom and you find some things that we can do a craft with that. We are continuing on with our Tween Self-Defense series. This is the second session. We've partnered with the MAT to provide this. And then October 24th, we'll have Halloween Family Night from 6 to 7:30. Kids will have a chance to come in costume, do some crafts, and have a little costume contest. And, oh, zombie Nerf target practice also. And then, of course, we have our book club. And those are some of the things that are going on at the library. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
You know what you do is you need to set the bar lower for the adults and also for the kids so they can overachieve, right?
150.
And don't just achieve, right? Wow,
That's a good one.
good job. All right, guys, we'll take a couple minute break and we'll start at 7.
Good job. That was outstanding.
Lord, be with us today as we discuss our community, this wonderful place where we live. Watch over us, watch over all those that protect us, it's our fire, our military. And be with us as we go and make this world a better place. Amen. Okay. So, I think we have a, excuse me.
Mayor, I move to excuse Councilmember Severs.
Second.
For work-related.
Moved and seconded, we're in discussion. Not hearing all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Unanimous, before.
Mayor, I move the agenda with one modification to add general business number 3, a task order for paramedics to perform traffic coverage to address the corridor plan in the amount of $11,200.
Second.
It's amended. Okay. Anything else? All in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
There you go. Citizen comments? Any citizen comments? We wait for these. We spend 2 weeks waiting for these citizens. We're moving on. City boards and commission reports. We have the youth commission tonight. Yay. So, what's your report? All right. Right up there. There you go. Perfect.
Alright, so I'm Chloe Briston and I am the current chairman of the Youth Commission, as you may or may not know.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm the vice chairman. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how our last term, our 2-year term went. We focused most of our time on our talent shows, our winter clothing drive, winter festival, summer reading program. We helped the Friends of Pavilion Park with their movie nights and their throwdown tournaments.
And in our next coming term, we want to focus on creating new and improved ideas for events that people are excited about and want to participate in. And we want to build our following as the Youth Commission of Liberty Lake, so more people are interested in our events. And we are going to recruit and mentor new members of the commission so that we can continue the Youth Commission for years to come.
That's fantastic. We have some goals. You've had very good success. So, and you're going to have, I think, a new member or two?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay, so we're working on that. And then the other thing is, do we have enough resources to help you? Are you being provided enough resources to help you?
Yes.
So if you think you need something, make sure that RJ, so, where's RJ at? He's the guy.
You can say that about resources.
I picked a good resource, I'm telling you right now, so, but if you need anything, tell RJ so he can help you get that, so, because it's important that you have a good base and a good understanding of where we're gonna go and stuff to get you there, okay? So congratulations on a successful year, and we're looking forward to a very successful next year. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work, guys.
Yes.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So then we have the, what do we have, the planning commission, the planning commission? No. Parks and Arts Commission? Bill? Bill? Another report.
Not for the planning commission. Neighbors, staff, council and mayor. The Parks and Arts Commission has been very busy. I'm just going to limit my discussion to one topic that some of you have already been talking about with me, and that is an opportunity to have a light show at Orchard Park during the holiday season this year. The presentation was first made to us by an organization called Winter Glow. For those of you that don't know, Rich is here. Rich Riley is project director. He's sitting in the back over in the corner, trying to look inconspicuous and have defer your questions to him. But has anybody seen the display at the Cowley Park underneath the Sacred Heart Children's Hospital in the last years? It's a beautiful display. If you didn't see it then, anybody remember a few years back in Riverfront Park, before the park was all torn apart?
Yes.
August 21st, Rich and Phil, another member of the organization, came and made a presentation to us. Would you guys like to do that this year? Cost you $10,000. And we thought, well, okay, let's take a look at the budget. And long story short, the money is in the budget. We didn't do our grand opening at Orchard Park. Whether or not you decide that you want to spend the money is another thing, but it is there. It's doable. They'll take some volunteer effort. It's going to take some work, but the benefit to the city, following up on Bob Schneidmiller's conversation with us the last meeting, is people are coming to Liberty Lake and going, wow, well, they're going to see this from the freeway, and they're going to be coming to Liberty Lake. For the staff, the questions that you're going to want to ask, please ask Jen, because we had questions too, but we went around the park. August 21st was the first presentation. September 23rd, we had a full discussion. The Parks and Arts Commission does recommend to you that we go through with this. Last week on the 23rd, my daughter's birthday, I can't forget that. We went there and looked at the park with staff to see if we have the facilities, if we have the outlets, if we have the structure, if we have the parking, try to answer all the questions that you're going to ask, that we needed to ask to. And it really boils down to whether or not Liberty Lake wants to do it. The Parks and Arts Commission was 100% behind it. It's a little late in the season to get it. How we got it is a gift to us. It could be something that's renewable, and it could be a winter festival type of an event every year if we wanted it to be.
What's the date be like?
It'll be during the holidays, and it'll be 40 days. Did we decide on solid dates? I think we've recommended. Go ahead, Richard.
We have not decided on solid dates.
We're talking
But it'll
Thanksgiving.
run right around Thanksgiving to the Thursday after New Year's.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to do it soon. It takes 10 days to set up.
Right.
So there's going to be some volunteer work in that, and a lot of us are going to be working.
So you have to have a decision probably by the next council meeting, I assume.
I think that we need to put something together. We're having a meeting tomorrow. Anybody who wants to come to our meeting at 4 o'clock tomorrow, we'll be discussing it there too. And I think Jen's going to try to finalize some things with us.
So if you can bring it, so.
Yeah, I would be bringing an agenda bill and an invoice for you for approval at the October 15th council meeting.
Okay.
Yes?
I just had a couple questions that have been brought up by some residents who got wind, concerns from their side about increased traffic and light spillage into the neighborhood, and have the neighbors been contacted, and how do they feel about it?
No, because we haven't even made a decision yet, so we wouldn't communicate that until we felt sure that it was going to happen.
That seems almost seems a little backwards, and we shouldn't give
The
any
people
engage
that I've
residents
spoken with,
there.
and you know, when I've been over there, the people I've spoken with in the River District are excited. The ones that are right next door to it, we'll see.
That's my
After
concern.
40 days.
What is it on the, what end of the park will it be on, the completed end with the tennis courts?
The focal point would be in the playground area, excuse me, cold. And then the tennis courts, I think that we kind of discussed we could wind down the path that goes under the Vista power lines, assuming that's a question that I would have to ask Vista to make sure there's no issues. But
That's
it's
Melanie, she's right there.
yeah, haven't found it yet. But it would be focused up around that northeast area. That's where the bulk of the power is, so.
Northeast.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
playground shelters,
Okay, right.
tennis court.
And Jen, have you spoken with public safety about this yet?
No, no.
Okay.
We can definitely include
Need
that.
to check in with
Yeah.
for traffic control,
Absolutely.
see if there's gonna be a separate invoice if they need assistance.
Okay.
Thank you.
At what point would a presentation be given to the council so we know what we're looking at?
Next council meeting, October 15th.
Sounds great.
Okay, all right. You're done, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sewer and water district?
Bill Genoway with the sewer and water district. So our calendars were a little screwy here for the last couple of months, and I don't think anybody's been here. Is that true or no? Anyway, so what's going on in sewer and water? We just finished the Liberty Lake Drive water main replacement. Pipes in, it's been paved, it's beautiful. Everybody down there is happy. If you've had a chance to drive it, we collaborated with the Spokane County, they paved it, we put the pipe in, so it was a little bit of a tough job because of the width of the road, and people were afraid of forest fires up in that end of the lake. So we worked all that out, so that's good. We're working on, with the county, to see if we can discharge at Saltese Flats. Now, what does that mean to us? That means we don't go in the river anymore. We would bypass all of the regulations that are put on us by the EPA, everybody else, if we can get out of the river. So that's going to be our focus here for the next year or two, see if we can get into Saltese Flats. That's a wetland restoration project west of Micah over here. So that's kind of exciting. You've heard about the problems in Hilliard with the city of Spokane and the backflow problems with some people that were putting vegetation into that area out there. So it kind of woke everybody up about backflow prevention and how vulnerable are our hydrants, because we have hydrants all over the city. So we're going to probably lock them down. Hattenberg hydrant permit went sideways on us. And the only reason we found out about it is because somebody drove by and saw them. They didn't have a backflow prevention. They weren't at the hydrant they were supposed to be, so they've been put on notice. And we've kind of put ourselves on notice and saying, we need to lock these hydrants down because it's a water source that we can't mess with. As you know or don't know, we don't chlorinate the water in the river. It's as pure as you can have. We just went through a state auditor's review, no findings, did a good job, so we're doing that. You probably be doing that soon. And lastly, Stan Schultz has been our attorney at the district for 35 years, and he's retired. So it's kind of a big deal for our district, and we put out some RFQs about hiring somebody to take his place. I don't know if you can take his place, but we need an attorney, and he's going to go. So we're going to miss him. He's a real asset to this community and to our district. Any questions?
Question came up today on one of the community pages about the dates for leaf pickup. I didn't see anything on your guys' website or ours. And I know Jen was trying to find out too, but I thought maybe you'd know.
I don't.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Can you ask?
I can't. I'll find out. and get back to you.
Jen's already reached out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we run that program every year, and it's people from the city and our guys, and it's pretty successful. We get a lot of leaves.
Yeah, our neighborhood is very successful by putting together hundreds of bags.
A lot of bags.
Show the back for
And they're heavy. Everybody pulls their weight pulling bags. When we do that, then we'll probably come in with a report on how successful it was again and how many bags we picked up and all those things. Okay?
Thanks. Fire district already talked, Anything else, any other reports from anybody? Council reports? Not here. Mike?
I got a couple over this last month. I was able to attend 2 different functions in Leavenworth of all places. I know it was disgusting, but somebody had to do it. And the first I was able to attend was a 2-day seminar on budgets. There was over about 125, 130 individuals there from all the cities that were out throughout the state. It was absolutely outstanding. The benefit to be able to be exposed to something like that is that you get to visit and see what other cities are doing. And the benefit to that is we're able to rate how we're doing. And we're actually doing very well. But because sometimes if we get so enclosed in what we're doing, we can't see the forest for the trees. So it's beneficial to be able to go talk to other cities, other council members, the finance people, things of this sort here, to see what kind of challenges they're dealing with on it. So it was excellent. I hope that the council members, as we move forward, be able to attend such those. You know, because of working situation, it's difficult for everybody. But anytime somebody can attend something like that, I think it's really outstanding. And then 2 weeks ago, I was able to go back to Leavenworth. Once again, I know it was tough, you know, but I had to do it. For another retreat that was there. And it was the mayor's retreat. I appreciate being able to go to that. And Katie fortunately put together some questions that could be asked that it was there. And it was really good to be able to, we're 281 cities in this state. And there's represented about 40 that was there of varying size. And it's interesting to see how the different governments work. And even though there's different governments, everybody seems to have the same challenges. No one is exempt from the challenges. The majority of the things that they were concerned about that came up in discussion was growth, infrastructure, and a big thing was tax revenue. Was talked a lot about. You know, especially with the majority of the cities that were there, practically all of them are cities that were well advanced, had been around for a long period of time, whereas for us, we're a relatively new city. One thing we don't have is the old structure in the town, as many of these cities do. A lot of these towns have been around for a long period of time. They've already hit their growth, and now they're in the challenge of how do they create more revenue to take care of their infrastructure that is starting to age, because they've already gone through all that growth, which we're experiencing. And with the growth we're experiencing, our tax base is outstanding. But also what we have to always keep in mind is what happens 10, 12, 15, 20 years down the road when we're at build-out and we no longer have that tax base that comes in. Our infrastructure still needs to be taken care of. These are concerns that a lot of these individuals talked about, and they scratched their head. One huge thing was revenue. How do they encourage businesses to come into their town and to develop new businesses? And that's where it's kind of unique, because a lot of these towns are older. They have structures that are 80, 90, 100 years old. They're relatively inexpensive, where a business can come in, remodel it, and get involved. We at Liberty Lake have the disadvantage, because we're so new, is that we don't have that old structure. So anything that happens here has to be new. You know, last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, we were able to meet the family that's going to put the ice cream parlor in next to Orchard Park over here. They're excited about it, they're really excited, but they were telling me they're not in a position where they can come in and build something like that. They love being involved in Liberty Lake, but they have to go through a developer who can build it. And something new is going to be costly, and one of the concerns they have is their overhead. Okay. So it was really beneficial. Like I said, the biggest challenge is the growth infrastructure. Katie did a great job of giving some talking points, of which a lot of them say, gee, that's great, but we don't have those challenges, because some of the same challenges they have is the same priority we have. So it was advantageous. I hope that in the future, additional council members are able to go to these type of functions, because it was absolutely so valuable. I can't emphasize enough how good it is. Thank you.
Any other reports, Chris?
Not a report yet, but just a heads up in case anybody's still interested. Usually every fall, AWC holds their regional meetings. This year instead they're doing Cities on Tap, and this one for us right now is actually tomorrow at 5:30 at Nectar. So if you haven't registered and you want to go, I would get a hold of AWC right away. I know they need a head count because they're doing a tasting. I know I'm registered, so if you guys are interested in that, is taking the place of the dinner that we usually have, and hopefully it should be a little bit more fruitful than in the past.
Thank you,
together?
I'll throw one. Let's see, Friday the 20th was Valley Fest for the City of Valley, and I was out there in the middle of Sprague Avenue between University and Pines with Valley Mayor Rod Higgins judging the bed racing contest. And I get to tell you that the most spirited, seriously, the most spirited group in this was none other than Mrs. Kim Kyle, principal of Liberty Creek Elementary, and about 7 of her staff members. These ladies and what they put on as a show, and I'm going to say as a great moment of spirit, was awesome. So a lot of fun to be had, and I guess I'm saying I'm threatening for potentially a City of Lake, City of the Valley rivalry next year in this regard, so watch that space, might have something together.
Very good.
Okay, Tony?
Yeah, I'd just like to refocus the council back to a couple months ago when we had some citizens come approach us about their desires to see Liberty Lake establish a dog park. So we had one meeting with them, which I was very happy to attend with Katie, and we kind of got a feel for what that particular individual was looking for, but we need to meet more often with them, and I do plan on doing that. And at some point, just to let you know that we're still looking into it, and that at some point, hopefully, prior to budget time, we may have some requests for the council to consider for budgeting to start the park. I don't expect it to be 100% done, but maybe to start it off and at least prove maybe where we're going to be. So thank you, and just be aware that that is coming up, and it's still something active, and if you'd like to participate or if you have thoughts about it, please let us know. Thanks.
Okay. Any other reports? Meredith, Kate?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm going to rearrange my report because we have a special guest here from the county, Commissioner Cooney and Jerry Gimmel, the CEO for Spokane County. So, Ann, can you go down to 6? And I'm going to talk a little bit about Harvard and Henry Road projects, and specifically number D, which is the Spokane County easement. And if you have questions, I can certainly take them. It's actually on your agenda tonight as 11B2. So we, I believe the mayor and a few other folks met with the county back in July, and I've tried to keep you up to date on the progress of discussions related to the easement that we need from the county in order to build a Henry Road overpass. And over the course of that discussion, Commissioner French asked if we could take an extra 30 days and look at a span that would basically open up a clear zone over their right-of-way. And so he was able to take that request and go to the SRTC and get the board to support that project as a priority. Once you establish it as a priority, then you have to look and see whether or not there's funds available. And that process is still underway. So the easement that's on your agenda tonight does not address the funding. What it does address is the perpetual easement that we need to build our structure. So I won't go through a lot of the details, but I just wanted to publicly acknowledge Commissioner Cooney and all of the effort that she and her staff put into this. We went around a couple of times. It took a little bit longer than I think everyone wanted, but at the end of the day, the agreement that's before you tonight for your consideration, I'll touch on the fine points. One is there's $18,000 owing for consideration of the easement. The easement, as all of you know, is on the south side of I-90 at the Henry Road overpass. It was bought by the county in the 80s from the railroad, and it's being held for a future light rail or a mass transit type corridor. By spanning over the right-of-way, added about $1.5 million to the scope of the project, and that was where the SRTC was going to find the funds. Now, these funds are challenging because they're federal. And if any of you are familiar with federal funds, once they bring federal funds into a project that's funded by the state, it complicates everything. And it makes it more difficult in some ways, especially for our city, to manage and deliver the right-of-way and everything. So the idea came up that, and this is in the works, so this is not a done deal, nor does it affect the easement that you're voting on tonight. As I said, the easement is only for the easement, not for the funding of the additional scope. The idea came up is it eligible for TIF and LIF funds? And so that is being discussed, and the answer is yes. It's in the boundary, it's a legitimate project, it's actually identified as a project, and there is sufficient funds. RJ can cover this in more detail if you want, but the long and the short of it is, there is sufficient funds in the TIF and LIF to cover that $1.5 million. So let me kind of wrap this up and tell you what I want you to know about this project. Related to the county only, the structure would be owned by Spokane County. The additional scope would be funded at the front end by Spokane County, seeking reimbursement through the TIF and LIF when it's enough of the project is complete to receive those funds. We would be responsible for the maintenance and operation of the overpass. That means plowing the snow, fixing the potholes, painting the lines. We would also be responsible for an annual bridge inspection that's required by the state. WashDOT and the county would have to enter into an agreement for the proximity of their two structures side by side, because the structure that spans over I-90 is actually owned by WashDOT. So that's kind of a lot of information. I can go through a lot more details if you want, but the only rescission, the question came up about rescission of the agreement. So the way the easement is crafted is if we don't build the project by December of 2025, then the easement goes back to the county and we are reimbursed our $18,000. So that's kind of where we are right now. But that, I'm just going to see if there's any questions. It's a lot of information.
Just a quick question. So I read the article in the Spokesman Review that came out a week or so ago about all this. Commissioner French mentioned the possibility of putting in a special taxing district to pay for this. Please tell me that's off the table. Thank you.
I didn't pick up on that,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's the first
I've
time.
learned not to believe everything I read. Okay, that's why I asked. Thanks.
So
I
no
would certainly
special
believe the shaking of the head.
So, we keep moving along, and I'm going to give you an update on the whole project now. So let me start with kind of some challenging news, and then I'll get to the more positive news. How's that? So Initiative 976, we distributed to all of you information about this measure. It is on the November 5th ballot. If it passes, it could jeopardize the funding for our project. So I want you all to know that. When I went to AGC today, along with a lot of other people, can you hold up the piece of paper? So this is from AWC, so you'll have information about the ballot measure. And then also, there is AGC, so they're a little bit, they have a strong opinion on this. This is their article, and listed on there is the Henry Road and Barker, I-90 Henry Barker. So if this measure passes November 5th, the funding for our project is jeopardized. So I wanted to let you know that. Mayor and Councilmember Kennedy, you were at the meeting. Did they want the city to take a position on 976? I got there a little bit late.
Well, I think they want everybody to take a position on 976, if at all possible, all businesses, et cetera. So how that is going to impact not only our community, but our businesses, the regional businesses, the whole eastern Washington economic opportunities. I mean, we have a lot of things coming. They're going to require transportation improvements, and when there's no funding, it's going to be very difficult.
There's a lot of information out there, and it would have a significant impact on the maintenance and operation of all state routes, including ferries and bridges and transit, and funding for projects funded by Connect Washington. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. The Harvard, and I'm going to jump to another project now. The Harvard Road Bridge Overlay is underway. They started last night. Thursday, the bridge will be closed so they can grind. There'll be 4 closures over the course of 20 days. I was out last night. It was the lighting is they do a very good job of lighting, it's very safe. I know we've coordinated with Sergeant Morgan, so the police department is well aware of the sequence of activities. So when that gets done, we will have a new overlay over the top of the bridge, as well as the approaches to the bridge. So that's an important project. Harvard Road Bridge widening, that is going to be, the design is going to be completed in December, and we turn that project over to WashDOT. So assuming that 976 fails, then WashDOT would move forward with with construction of the Harvard Road widening, okay? I've talked about the Spokane County easement. The WashDOT interlocal agreement, I wanted to let you know we continue to work through scenarios with them. We continue to fine tune verbiage. I can send you drafts if you want, but RJ and I are still working on those. We have a meeting with WashDOT Thursday afternoon, and we're going to go through one more round of edits. One of the things that they acknowledge is that federal funding on this project would make it a much more difficult project. So we all are in agreement of that, which is why we were interested in using TIF and LIF funds. And before I get to the last item, I do want to know if this council has any concerns or is apprehensive about using TIF and LIF funds for the overpass over the county's right-of-way. Is there any concerns?
Yes, there are some concerns. However, I just noticed in our pack that we have some information about what's scheduled for lift and tip. And quite honestly, at least for myself, I'd like some time to be able to review and go over that before we jump to the fact that yes, we're going to use it or not use it. Also, as long as we're talking about the easement portion of it, I noticed that there was a request that we maintain the sewer that runs under it?
The sewer is in the right-of-way, and it's a trunk line that originates just on the east side of the overpass. We are going to accommodate, which means we're probably going to sleeve it so that the county has access to the manholes and the pipe. But we're not going to maintain it per se. What we're going to do is protect it. If they want to get in to maintain it, our easement allows them the right to go into the easement area to protect the sewer. But we're not going to maintain the sewer. Our project will accommodate.
Off of that, it did talk about relocating, so that might be required in this project.
Yeah, I have some questions and Kevin Cook is their Director of Environmental Programs. I need to follow up with him. There's a lot of technical questions. Basically, what you do with sewer pipe is you either put it in a casement or so that you can line it. The need of ever getting into having to actually dig up the sewer is virtually non-existent because you access it through your manholes and then you can line it through that way. So relocating the sewer is not something that we're anticipating. What we want to do is protect the sewer from the additional loading from the overpass.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get clarification on that portion of it with the relocation verbiage and any potential costs associated with that.
Okay, so is that in the easement today?
That's what it says in there, talking about relocation.
Okay, I will read it before we get to the item to vote on. We are not, our intention when we talked about the easement was that we would protect the sewer, but we were not going to relocate it. Jerry?
Are you sure they're not referring to the manhole cover?
Because I think we were going to relocate the manholes.
The manhole.
because there's
To have access,
one
not
in
the
the
sewer.
middle.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
That's why they're here.
And then finally, and we're going to put the calendar real quick. We tried to figure out how all the pieces are going to come together, and sometimes when I look at a calendar, it's easier. So if you look at October 22nd, that's probably the day that I'm going to get the first appraisal for the right-of-way that Centennial contributed to the project. The importance of this is this appraisal becomes a credit, okay? The determination evaluation will be another appraisal. I have identified an individual that's interested in doing that work, and we're not going to get that until probably the first week of November. So my question to the council is, do you want to move forward with an agreement with WashDOT before you have the valuation determined by the appraiser? That's one question. The second question is, do you want to move forward with the WashDOT agreement before or after we know the outcome of 976? So, November 5th, we should know that, so that would put a lot of things on the agenda for November 19th. It would put the agreement with WashDOT and also potentially, we're not going to do the design services at that point. It would be the determination of value will be known, and then there'd be a contract with WashDOT on November 19th, unless you want to move it before. So that's my question.
I guess the question that you have is just looking from the time period, time span period, you know. If 976 basically null and voids a lot of this stuff or calls into question, what difference does it make other than the fact that, you know, to wait for it to find out? It'll null and void it no matter what we do, more than likely or whatever. At least it creates some issues. The second thing is, you know, we've got some of the things that they do have funding sources right now that they can spend money against. And some of that is some of the design and so forth that DOT has. It's already been advanced in 2019-21 by any. So the funds kind of sit in the bank account right now. And so I think that the more that you can do prior to, the better off you are. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know, Commissioner, you've been involved in all some, not to put you on the spot, but so we have an open mic right over here.
So I was at the meeting as well today, and I would say correct, that we don't know what the initiative's gonna do. We don't know for sure it's gonna take the funding away from your project. It could be another project at this point in time, and so I would move forward with everything that you've got going. You've delayed long enough. I mean, I've been part of this project since the get-go, you know, trying to help, you know, with our lobbyists, you know, make this happen. So it's been a long go for you guys, and I would say just as much as you can get lined up and ready to go, the better you're gonna be. And then that solidifies, it's kind of like having that shovel-ready project versus other projects that are not shovel-ready that may, you know, that's where they could look at, you know, kind of adjusting that funding. So that would be my recommendation.
Once you start to spend $1, now they've got $1 invested in the game.
Good point.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so October 15th, then I'll work on getting the WashDOT agreement together. And then the credit that we get for the right-of-way and 976 will be decided after we approve the agreement with WashDOT. So is that kind of what I'm hearing? Kind of, okay.
Before we move on, Mary, we just got to thank you a lot for your persistence with some difficult people at periods of time. So, but I just want to say thank you a lot from the city here, from our community, from your district, because you do represent our district.
Yes, I do.
And to Jerry, and he's the guy that knows where all the bones are buried, so he always helps a lot, you know, to make sure that we're all taken care of. So, I mean, and to Bill's point about you guys helping the Liberty Lake Soda Water District repave those roads, those are partnerships, and those are the things that help our community on an ongoing, real-time basis. And so I want to thank you for your leadership on this. Thank you for working with your other commissioners to bring this forward tonight so that we can get something moving. And Jerry, thank you again for all you've done for us.
A lot of credit goes to Katie
Well,
to make this thing come together. She's a good partner. I like working with her.
Yeah, when you know it's easy, when you have good partners.
That's exactly right. Anything's possible.
Yeah, and I have to say, it's been a process, but I mean, we worked through it every step of the way. And I think that's why it's kind of evolved even, sometimes it felt like daily. You know, and so I know, you know, one of the things I just want to reiterate is I wasn't part of SRTC, you know, when the discussion happened there, but certainly I'm married to a highway contractor and know that anytime you bring federal dollars into a project, it's going to raise the cost. It's going to raise the administrative burden on yourselves and the contractors, and so that's what, you know, continues to raise those costs. And so I would just encourage us to all ensure that we're, you know, and that's why I think that using the TIF funds and that the county, I mean, I will tell you, we're looking at extending that TIF 2 years if we need to make it happen, because, you know, this is such an important project for the community out here. And so I just want to say, you know, that's what we're here for. We're trying to help, and I truly believe, and I mean, you guys all know this since I've been commissioner, that we have to work together. It's really truly working together that we're going to make this community better. So
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Okay, so appraisals are in the mix. I won't have them for probably another month, but as soon as we get them, we'll pass those on. So are there any other questions about the Harvard and Henry Road projects? Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top. Oh, I'm sorry.
If I could just say something on the Harvard Road Bridge overlay, for the benefit of the citizens and stuff, can you make a comment that originally we were looking at 5 days on that, and now it's up to 25? You'll be able to explain why.
Yeah, so basically when they had the pre-construction meeting and looking at the weather, there was a lot of factors went in, and so they decided to approach the project differently. They'll be grinding out, so instead of doing a full closure every night for 5 days, they're going to have 4 closures over, I don't know how often, but there'll be advance notice of when the closures. There will be lane work, so you may get flagged on one lane or the other, but the bridge will be open. When the bridge is closed, however, the westbound off-ramp, so if you're coming from Idaho, and you're trying to get off of I-90, is closed. And if you are, so Barker would be your detour, or state line. And then if you're in Liberty Lake and you're trying to get onto I-90, you're gonna have to go back to Barker or state line, when it's those 4 days that it's closed. But thank you for reminding us. We originally thought the contractor was gonna approach it one way. They decided to do it a different way. And just a reminder, the grindings from that bridge are gonna be used to build a trail on the north side of Mission. The same contractor got that contract as well.
Very good, thank you.
So now, back to the top. Anita, you were going to give us an update on the volunteer program. So we have a number of volunteers, and Anita's helping us coordinate that.
Give you these sheets here.
Excellent.
Well, you're right, I get to film myself. How about that? Okay, so Jen asked me to tell you about the new program that we started. So initially, Jen Camp brought together 4 volunteers last winter that helped citizens with snow needs. And as the snow angels, as they were called, we helped several people shovel out berms, driveways, and sidewalks when winter hit the hardest during the year. These were not city volunteers. Instead, Jen only contacted the volunteer group to initiate the help with them. The volunteer contacted the citizen directly, so this alleviated the city of any responsibility for the group. And each volunteer provides their own equipment, or the homeowner provided it to them. So in late summer this year, Jen and myself discussed expanding this program to include all seasons. After all, disabled, elderly, handicapped, and ill folks don't only live here during the winter months. Most likely they're gone. But we decided that many have yards, trees, flowers, etc., where help is needed year-round. So the Citizen Assistance Volunteer Program was launched in September for everyone needing fall help in their yard. 15 people have already signed up on our Facebook page for this, which I just can't say how much I appreciate that already. It's wonderful to know that just putting out a Facebook post can get 15 people in this community to do something. I'm very excited about that. So if anybody else wants to sign up for this program, you can go onto the Facebook and look for Fall Citizen Assistance Volunteer Group. and then just click on join. We'll get you approved, and then we'll notify you if we get any requests. Now, with winter almost happening this weekend, fortunately, we didn't get any requests for any snow removal, but we are looking at fall, and so we're hoping that we get some requests for people when the leaves do start falling off of the trees. Then we'll have a winter one, and then we'll do spring and summer, and each group will have a separate Facebook group for that. So if you want to request help, you can go to the city website and just click on the Stay Connected and click on the Fall Cleanup with the snow removal for right now to complete your request. And then there, as I said, there will be a Facebook group for each seasons. So, anybody have any questions? Yes, Chris?
Go ahead. Ladies first.
Oh, thanks. I know last year there were a lot of requests from people who were actually south of Spring. Are we covering that area as well?
I think that we will. We haven't really discussed the lines, but we most, we definitely are.
So, thanks.
Anita, this is a great program. We have 2 Saturdays left, knock on wood, for farmers market. Can you get us several of these copies?
Absolutely.
Because
Yes.
we can talk it over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Great program.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2, I let you all know that we had a little damage to, that we had at the Public Works yard. And, news update. Leaf pickup, November 9th. Saturday of November.
Breaking news.
Is that quick enough?
Thank you.
And just to let you know, there was damage, we do have insurance, there's a $1,000 deductible. The chief mentioned putting out a reward for people that would have information leading to an arrest and a conviction. We think that probably some kids created this problem, and that kids talk, and so we're hoping we can find out who did it. So, right now, all the equipment that was there is now here at City Hall, where it is. It's secure, we have cameras, etc. The other, I'm going to go to item number 3. So this is a little bit of a follow-up to our executive session last week, where we talked about benefits and compensation. RJ is going to share with you revenue forecasts for 20 to 2025.
So you should be, before you, this should be put together, you've got one statement that's kind of notes to a larger statement that looks like this, that has front and back on pages. So this is the 6-year forecast put together. It's updated to, as of today. There is one error on the short narrative page, right at the very bottom. Just redline that out, if you don't mind, where it says the didn't include the compensation results. They do actually include those now. I just didn't catch that when I did my print preview because it was on page 2 and I didn't realize that I had extra stuff on there. So in what you're seeing does show a that we're about $325,000 in a deficit for the 2020 budget. Now we're still early. Budget doesn't come out to council for 2 more weeks, so we're still sharpening our pencils, making adjustments where they need to be. So by the time you see the budget come before you, it'll be balanced. But some of the questions is what we discussed last week is, can the city afford these items? So we're still exploring that, but we also believe in my very first statement that revenues are conservatively estimated. So just for example, over the last 5 years, our revenues have exceeded expectations on average about 9%. While our expenditures in that same time, we try to make sure we forecast every possibility and have some contingencies, but we're usually about 5% under when it comes to expenditures. So while this does show a deficit, if we stay patterned to what happened in past years, we should be okay. But we're still wanting to look at whatever the departments have turned in to make sure we bring a solid balanced budget for the future. One of the encouraging things when I did this, looking out past the 6 years, is that there's not necessarily what's showing as what I call a structural deficit. The deficits are all kind of within that, the highest being this 320, but if you look in future years, it stays pretty consistent. There's not a huge, it doesn't go from 300 to 400 to 500 to 600, show something out there. there. So I feel like we've got an ability to maintain, looking down the line. You do see a significant drop-off in 2022. That is because that is when the TIF expires and that property tax does come back to the city, though I know Commissioner Cooney did mention that they want to expand the TIF, and I need to find out what that definition means.
Lift.
The lift. Well, the TIF is the one that expires. The lift is good to 2034.
I know, but they can't expand it.
That's why I agree with your sentiment, but they just,
But
they
the
did
lift-
say that.
The lift they can collect it longer.
Correct.
And that's where the money's going to come from.
Okay, that's just want to make sure, I'm going to verify the statement that they made. So, so I would say a budget comes out in 2 weeks. The notes talk about what kind of revenue projections are on there, so you can take a look at those. If you have questions, let me know. The expenditures, we're including the salary and benefit items in there, which includes the compensation study. It also includes what the benefits we're looking at. This is a good year because we're not looking at any kind of premium increases when it comes to medical premiums this year. We're also looking in here, it's included the new positions that we're requesting this year. So there's 5, one police officer, one in the maintenance worker, civil engineering technician, payroll clerk, and an IT network administrator. With that, any questions?
One under sales tax, you're showing 2% increase. Do you feel that's a pretty conservative number?
So 2 things I did with sales tax. One is I went to 2017 baseline because I felt how the economy is working now in this city and what we're looking at coming construction for next year. 17 seemed like a good baseline, and then 2% in the future. I think that is very conservative. It's probably going to be closer to 3. Our trend line has been much higher than that.
Right.
But not knowing what the economy holds, I wouldn't recommend higher than that to get closer to the year.
You somewhat attribute a certain amount of that to continued construction and growth?
Construction, yes.
Right.
So as we continue building out, construction systems should stay strong. But as the economy, if the economy does turn, and we've been going, 10 years of just at least steady pace. There isn't a time in history that I've been able to see where we've been trending like this, the country has, for me, from a national historic perspective. There's usually a recession that hits every 5-7 years of some sort that you have to adhere for. We haven't seen that here in the real.
Thanks.
So you'll see more budget stuff on the 15th, but we wanted to share with you the initial projections. And I just want to underscore that we will bring you a balanced budget on October 15th. Right? Okay. So with that, I'll go down to the next item. So we have talked about the need to look at our corridors, which is kind of that Country Vista, Appleway, Moulter, Mission, the whole network of our transportation system here in Liberty Lake. And some things have changed since we last did it in 2016, 2017. The schools come on board, we've had some new businesses, and a whole host of other things. So, and then also we got funding for the Henry Road overpass. So Mayor Pro Tem Brickner mentioned adding a contract for your, a task order for you to approve tonight, and that's to go out and get the traffic counts. You need to, there's, I don't know, probably 24 intersections, approximately. 17 intersections. We want to look at not only volumes, but turning movements. What that does then is will be used for the whole analysis of what goes where, when. It'll also factor in some of the new changes that I just mentioned, as well as the overpass. It will be used in the design of the intersection of Henry Road overpass with Country Vista. Legacy Ridge is another area we need to know, have more data, because at the end of the day, that whole corridor has to work together. And so that's what this will inform. It's a little bit time sensitive. School's in session and the snow's not here yet, knock on wood. So this is a good time to get that information. And again, this will help inform and will be used a great deal. The other thing it will be used for is to update our Harvard Road mitigation funds with our Harvard Road mitigation fees which we haven't adjusted in a few years, so we need to update those as well. So it's a very important piece of work, it's time sensitive, and I just wanted to let you know that we put on the agenda so we can move forward with those counts. I'm going to move along to Advantage Spokane was launched, and there it is. If you go up to metropolitan areas, that will show the different areas, and Liberty Lake is one of them. And there we are, and it talks a little bit about our community. And Lisa is really the point on this. I didn't know if there's anything else other than it's been launched, and it's beautiful pictures of our community, I know.
I just encourage everybody to go take a look at it. I think you'll be pleased. At the bottom of it, you'll actually see the real estate, available real estate within the city. It's pretty slick. It's a pretty slick, and it's really outward facing to selectors who are looking across the country for economic development sites. And so we're real excited about it.
And I like it because it's current. So much of the data we get from census and the like are 4 and 5 years old. So I think I like the fact that it's current. It's very helpful. Okay, I'm going to move on. I've done Harvard Road and Henry Road, so now I'm in the wrap-up mode. Dates to remember. So Home Depot, Fireplane, I Googled it, Sergeant Morgan. I didn't know the name of it, so they call it Fireplane?
Yeah, I guess that's the name of it. It's basically a kids event or.
It's a kids event with police and fire, and it's October 5th, this Saturday. I think it's from like 9 to noon or thereabouts. It's at Home Depot here in Liberty Lake. Farmers Market last day, October 12th. The walk for Marilyn Janins is October 19th, and then the Halloween Family Night at the library is October 24th. And there was one other item, so a week from tonight, October 8th, I should have put that on. That's our capital facilities workshop. The question I have is, we had posted it as 7 p.m. Some of the folks here at City Hall are asking if we could do it at 6. So I'm asking the council, is it okay if we notice it for 6 p.m.?
What date is it again?
It's a week from tonight, Tuesday, October 8th.
Sure.
At 6 p.m.?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we will go with 6 p.m. and change our notice, and I think, Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, question?
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, sure.
Katie, back on the traffic counts, under the recommendation, Lisa's probably going to jump in on this. It says approve the task order authorizing collection of traffic volume data, including tube counts. What is that?
They put a tube across the road.
Oh, really? Okay. Very good, thank you.
Keeping in mind with that, Katie, excuse me, do they project traffic brought in by the high school?
Yes. In fact, the high school did a traffic study, so we have that. We will know the trips and where they're coming from. The other thing I want to underscore is that when we do this on today's current data, they take all of the land use that's been identified in our population, which is different than what it was the last time we did it, because I think we were in the 25,000-ish. So that, the new report will show what our traffic looks like at build-out, so we can make decisions. But to answer your question, yes.
And if I can just clarify, so this is just the traffic counts that are going to be foundational for the corridor study and network analysis. I'm going to be coming back to you with a task order for that, hopefully on the 15th or November 5th, one or the other. We're working on that right now. We wanted to get the traffic counts in advance because there's a window of time that they have to be done so that we can get to work immediately on the other piece of it. So your question, that will be answered, the projections will be done. We'll be doing projections in the near term, and then at the 2040 mark, because that's how we do transportation planning. It would be in alignment with SRTC and whatnot. So we would be doing those two analyses, and then looking at what improvements are required in the near term, which we're calling basically the period of our capital facilities plan, so 6 years, versus the long-term near build-out scenario.
I just want to recognize this press release that was issued today. I really value the focused attention to that function. As the Scots compositioner, I'm grateful. Please continue. I appreciate, I'd say, strong and well-presented information in that format.
Thank you. Yeah, so we did a press, you guys have a lot of papers. I apologize between numbers and graphs and memos and updates, but you do have a copy of the press release that was handed out, or excuse me, we shared it with WashDOT and emergency responders this afternoon. So.
Okay. Lisa? 1406.
Mayor, council members, I wanted to give you just a very, very brief update on House Bill 1406. So a couple things I wanted to share with you. There is a draft of the resolution of intent on your table. We'd like to bring this back to you in November or December, depending upon how the schedules fall. We've got some pretty jam-packed council meetings coming up. Since the workshop the city council had with the health district, we've had the opportunity to be invited to the table. There have been several meetings with City of Spokane, Spokane County, the City of the Valley, City of Liberty Lake, and some of the other agencies discussing the potential to partner with one another to kind of be a force multiplier with these dollars, what that might look like. One of the things I have to caution you on is the fact that we still don't have the rules. Department of Commerce is working on a draft of the rules. I spoke to Commerce this week. They should be out by the middle of October for comment. They won't be finalized until December. So while we continue to talk with the other agents, with other agencies, and as I said, we looked at the coalition concept, also spoken to community partners who, while they don't have a rental assistance program right now, would be very interested in developing one in partnership with the City of Liberty Lake and the City of the Valley, if we were to go in that direction. So you will have some options. The resolution of intent has to be passed by January 20th. Would have a whole, almost another year before we have to pass the ordinance and figure out how we're going to partner and who we want to partner with and how we want to utilize those funds. So continue to be at the table. We want to move forward, bring forward to you the opportunity to pass the resolution of intent. It sounds like all the other agents or all the other municipalities within the county are planning on doing the same thing. And so we'll keep that moving forward, continue to have conversations. Once the rules come out, we will be looking at them and we will be commenting on the rules for implementation. But until those come out, it's not really clear exactly how we can use those dollars. And so once we have that information, present it to the council, and you can give us direction in terms of which of the several options you may want to pursue, or if there's another option on the table that you'd like to further research. So
Appreciate it. Just want to do one thing, just update the people so they know what we're talking about. 1406 allows the city to get part of the sales tax dollar of state sales tax dollars. It's not a new tax, it's not anything, it just allows us to capture a little piece of the sales tax dollars that the state has already collected. And that portion for the city is extremely small. It's not, it's about 30,000.
29,000.
Pardon?
29,000.
Right. $29,000. So, and the goal was to utilize it to help facilitate housing and work on some of these issues that we have within our region developing. So again, we imposed the resolution which allows us to collect the money. Then we try to figure out in the next year or so how that money can be spent or utilized for the community. There's no cost to the citizens here.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on.
Thank you, Lisa.
Action items.
Mayor, I move action item consent agenda 1 and 2 to approve September 17th, 2019 city council minutes and to approve October 1st, 2019 vouchers in the amount of $71,400 $409.86.
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion. Not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I move general business number 1 to confirm youth commission appointments.
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion. Not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go.
I move general business number 2 to approve the non-exclusive easement deed for Spokane County related to the Henry Road overpass.
Second.
Further discussion. Not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, opposed? No.
I move general business number 3 to approve a task order for paramedics to perform traffic counts to address the corridor plan for the amount of $11,200.
Second.
Further discussion. Not hearing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. Kate?
October 5th is going to be a lot of fun. It's a very long meeting, so that's a heads up. First, we're going to recognize Councilmember Kaminskas. She received the advanced certificate of municipal leadership, and someone from AWC is going to be here to make that award. We also have a presentation, a swearing in of our new officer, Officer Arnold, who's going to be sworn in. Mayor Peterson, you're going to present our 2020 budget. We are going to have asking you to approve a contract to retain professional services for the Trailhead Master Plan. The interviews are completed and they're negotiating the contract right now. And so it's looking like it's going to come well within our budget. So we're asking for you to award the contract for that. We also hope to have the agreement with WashDOT for the design and construction of the Henry Road overpass. We have a public hearing on the budget, a public hearing on the annual code and comp plan amendments, and then the first read on the annual code and comp plan amendments. I'm sure I forgot something, I just don't know what it was. So, with that,
Citizen comments.
oh, excuse me, you know what, the donation ordinance. Do you want to add the donation discussion to that meeting? It's going to be a very long meeting with budgets and everything. Would you rather, it's up to you. Short discussion. Okay, so we will add the donation policy ordinance 168, I believe.
I would like to make a request that on the November 5th, that we add that a workshop on the flashing beacons. It was with the chief. It had been brought up that when that has been discussed in the past, at one of the meetings, we had 2 council members who weren't able to attend, and the last one where we compiled a lot of information, there was 3 of the council members couldn't attend. So the recommendation would be, is that to consider putting that on a workshop on November 5th. Looks like it's kind of light at that point. If I start to fill it up, I'm sure November 5th will be an exciting evening for many individuals. But I would request that we add that.
Anything else? Citizen comments. James.
So James Alexander, Legacy Ridge. Talked about the leaf pickup this year, and I remember last year there were a couple of problems that I think we could do something about. One of the problems was we had all these plastic bags over there that we had to get prison labor, I think it was, to go get and pick up. And the other was the number of trips that folks had to do to get all of those leaves over there. So my suggestion would be to request citizens to use biodegradable bags such as paper. They're available at Home Depot. There are other types of biodegradable there. The other one would be to use a grinder, like you do with tree limbs and such, behind the truck that's picking it up. You put the leaves in there. If they're biodegradable bags, you just toss them in, you're done. If they're plastic, you dump the bags, obviously. But that would greatly reduce the number of trips back and forth over there. So something to think about. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, James. Any other comments, Bill?
Phil Follier, Legacy Ridge. I'd like to comment on the statement about locking down the fire hydrants. I'm for sure not in favor of anybody not using backflow preventers. We certainly don't want to contaminate our water supply. But to completely lock it down, it's not just used for the fire department, it's used by street cleaners, it's used by Not that there's gonna be a riot in the city anytime soon, but it can be used as a riot device. But also for construction that's happening, and we have some very big projects, excuse me, with the freeway overpasses, Parker, the school. No, it's not that far to go to Otis Orchards or Green Acres to get water, but you may find that there's going to be some disgruntled contractors out there if the fire hydrants are completely locked down. It seems to me there must be a policy in place for anybody that's not using those fire hydrants properly, with proper equipment, backflow preventers, have the proper permits, all that good stuff. So if you have any dialogue with the water department, it might be a good time for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Other comments?
Hi there, I'm Shannon Weshy, and I was here, I think about a month ago with Marla. And we were speaking on the dog park, just the possibility of building a dog park. She just wanted me to come, she's out of town on her, I was gonna say honeymoon, her anniversary trip. Anyhow, she wanted me to come and thank you, the city council and the mayor, just for considering this project. I know it's ongoing, and it sounds like, Mr. Langford, that you've spoken with her. But we want to make ourselves available. I think you have my phone number also and my email address. If you have any questions, or if we want to put together maybe a committee, feel free. But we just want to thank you for your time and consideration.
Could you fill out a yellow card so we do have your name and address, or not your name and your contact information?
Sure. Thank you.
Give it to him.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other comments? Once, twice, 3 times. We're going to go into executive session. When we come out, we won't make any decisions. We'll do it. Personnel.